Looking at the audience that's gathered here, I'm debating what shall I speak on. Different strokes for different folks, different sights on different nights, different ways on different days. Let's talk about chanting the Maha Mantra. Om Agana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Let me find my spot. Come on now. All right. What about this chanting of Hare Krishna? Many of you may know of the debate that took place at the home of the father and uncle of the future Raghunath Das Goswami. Haridas Thakur was invited for a home program, as we would call it today. He walked around in the region and was currently staying in a hut provided by Balaram Acharya, who took care of Haridas Thakur's minimal needs. So one day, Balaram Acharya humbly requested Haridas Thakur. And for those of you brand new, Haridas Thakur is known as the Acharya of chanting Hare Krishna, the foremost demonstrator of chanting Hare Krishna. And everyone knew Haridas Thakur has a vow of chanting 190 rounds a day. We don't want our new persons to think about that too much. As you know, I often reassure newcomers to chanting the holy name because they think, oh, here we are just doing a couple of rounds a day, and we hear that full-time bhakti practitioners chant at least 16 rounds. Oh, impossible. So I always explain to them. I said, do you know how I started chanting? It wasn't that as soon as I popped out of my mother's womb, I had japa beads in my hand and I was chanting. I started chanting one bead a day. Not one round, but one bead a day. So then I explained truthfully, if there's hope for me, there's much more hope for you. So there ensued a discussion at the home of Raghunath Das's parents, who were extremely wealthy, but they used their wealth in Krishna's service. So they were discussing the glories of chanting Hare Krishna. And we should also do the same. We should come together and express realizations about chanting Hare Krishna, the glories of the holy name. And they especially were enthusiastic to speak like that because in their audience was Haridas Thakur. and they began to glorify him as if they had 5 mouths. This is a great delight to glorify devotees. And so they were all chanting the glories of Haridas Thakur. And then the discussion. You might call it a theological discussion. You might call it a doctrinal discussion. But this is not just theory, religious conceptions, religious tradition. We're talking about realization brought about by chanting Hare Krishna, as verified by Srimad Bhagavatam. So one person said, you know, the greatest effect of chanting Hare Krishna is that it extinguishes all your sinful reactions. An intelligent person is concerned. What about all the bad karma I've done? How will I ever get rid of it? Not only the bad karma we've done in this life, but in so many countless preceding lifetimes. So therefore, one guest at this convocation, at this assembly, brought up, chanting Hare Krishna extinguishes all sinful reactions. Another one said, chanting Hare Krishna stops your material life, frees you from material existence. Well, that sounds quite interesting. Of course, these days, people aren't interested until they're suffering maximally. They're not interested in freedom from material existence. They think spirituality is meant to create more attachment for material existence in a problem-free way. But that is impossible. Attachment to material existence is inherently, essentially, in of itself, problematic. So therefore, this one bright person put that on the table. Chanting Hare Krishna liberates you and ends your material existence. Sounds good, doesn't it? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that once you understand you are spirit soul, you become joyful just by being released from the false identification with the body. That's the beginning of joyfulness. You feel relief. And often many newcomers to bhakti are in the material relief phase, which is laudable, as Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita. Jana Sukatino Arjuna. Arjuna, there are 4 types of meritorious persons who come to me. They all have merit because regardless of their motivations, they're coming to me. So one prominent type is the category of those who feel the distress of material existence, which any intelligent person should feel. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita explains about the Brahma Bhuta platform, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma na Shochati na Kangshati. You first understand that you are spirit soul, different from the body and mind. And then you're joyful in that there's a sense of relief. Just like if you're out all day in the hot sun and you come in here with the air conditioner on. So that is like liberation. Freedom from material identification. But that's just the beginning of joyfulness, not the end. And Krishna enhances upon his description of the preliminary phase of self-realization. Nasochati nakangshati. You stop the perpetual agony of material desire. And you stop lamenting, oh, I lost this, I don't have that. When will this come to me? Those two features of material existence are our constant companion as we go from one lifetime to another, to another, to another. Hankering, yearning, intensely desiring, I've got to have this, I need to do that. And then lamenting, oh, not only do I not get what I want, but I'm losing what I already have. Samat sarveshu bhuteshu. You see all living entities as equal. You're not part of the slaughterhouse conspiracy. Krishna says, in this state, called the Brahma Bhuta stage, you are ready to engage in devotional service. Going beyond liberation, because that's what bhakti, devotional service, is. It's what you do in the positive, now that you've gotten away from the negative. So these persons at this assembly were presenting what Haridas Thakur will point out are secondary or corollary characteristics of chanting Hare Krishna in its advanced stage. So he explained, because everyone was curious to know. And this is a very important point in spiritual life, whether you're a new practitioner, an old devotee, whatever. There should be eagerness and curiosity, curiousness about chanting Hare Krishna. Inquisitiveness, better than curiosity, curiousness. So the audience wanted to know, really? They heard from Haridas Thakur. He said, no, those two things you've mentioned, extinguishing all sinful reactions, killing off all your karma, and freedom from material existence, liberation, those are just side effects of chanting Hare Krishna. The real effect of chanting Hare Krishna is ecstatic love of Krishna. So Haridas Thakur gave an analogy stated in the Shastra to explain. When the sun of the holy name shines, first, just like at dawn, before the sun is fully out, they're the first rays of dawn. You don't see the sun, but you see coming from Mangalarti, I see. At 4:30, when I walk into the temple door, sky is dark. 5 o'clock when I come out, there's just a little hint of sunlight, a hint of light in the sky. Very little, but it's there. So Haridas Thakur's point is that the full benefit of chanting Hare Krishna is like the sun being high in the sky, fully illuminating. But even before that, just the first rays of pure chanting, the first hint of pure chanting gives you liberation from material existence and extinguishes all your sinful reactions. Just the first, most tiny rays of sunlight, like you see. You can check tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. If you're in the temple, you can come out and look at the sky. So this is quite extraordinary. Now, understand that Haridas Thakur is speaking to an audience that's very learned. Not all of them were bhaktas. Some of them were gyanis, impersonalists. My point in saying that is so you understand, real intelligent civilization means at least to accept the value of liberation, freedom from material existence, and extinguishing karmic reactions. That's why Krishna in Bhagavad Gita describes the Brahma-Bhuta platform and then says, in that condition, in that preliminary state of self-realization, you can begin devotional service. So how many of you were at that preliminary stage before you took up your bhakti practice? Raise your hands. You're on the Brahma-Bhuta platform. No, what happened? What are you doing here? Krishna lays down strict precepts. You have to be like this, and then you can engage in bhakti. You have to understand that you're not the body. You have to be fully established in your existence as a spirit soul. No hankering, no lamenting. See all living entities as equal. What happened? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna breaking all of Krishna's rules about who can take up bhakti. So here is Haridas Thakur explaining something that is super extraordinary. Just by the slightest first hint of pure chanting of Hare Krishna, you get liberation from material existence. It's finished. You become established when you fully have mature chanting. You become established in your ecstatic, loving relationship with Krishna. That's the real effect of chanting Hare Krishna. Now, as you may recall, there were some Gyanis, mental, philosophical speculators in the audience who were attached to Brahman, the all-pervading spiritual energy. That is the ultimate. That is the supreme. So one of them was particularly arrogant. Gopal Chakravarti. He was young, he was handsome, he was learned, and thought he knew everything. He boldly challenged Haridas Thakur. What is this? So many sadhus, yogis, rishis, sages spend lifetime after lifetime pursuing liberation from material existence, and you are saying liberation can happen just by the dimmest beginning of pure chanting of Hare Krishna? Who can believe this? He announced to the whole assembly, just hear the conclusion of a sentimental bhakta. He's explaining that so much study of what is illusion, what is not illusion, what is Brahman. So many austerities are required, so much mystic yoga. After countless births, you get liberation. But this sentimentalist says just by partially successfully chanting Hare Krishna, you can obtain freedom from material existence? Ha! So just think about the level of this discussion. As I said, it's showing what a real human civilization's about. Dharma, religious principles; artha, economic development according to religious principles; kama, sense gratification according to religious principles; and moksha, liberation, freedom from material existence. So in the Vedic civilization, you start with religious principles, dharma, living your life according to codes of dharma behavior. And then artha, you've got to maintain yourself. Of course, as we pointed out yesterday, in the varnashrama system, in Vedic society, only one portion of the population's engaged directly in economic activity. And they're By their activities, they're supporting everyone else, just like the stomach digests food for all the parts of the body. So artha means maintaining your material existence, your material needs. And then kama. Everyone needs, generally speaking, a little sense gratification, but that's according to dharma. So that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. I am procreative activity when done according to dharma. So everything is prescribed. And we don't like that in the age of Kali. We don't like that everything is prescribed, formulated, measured out. No, we like the wildness of canine life. We think that is freedom. That's liberation. I always like to give the example of back when New Age was so popular in the 90s, one famous New Age writer, I read with my own eyes, he said, how do you judge what is the best spiritual path? Find the spiritual path with the less restrictions. And that's the best path, because restrictions and regulations on behavior press down on your shoulders and prevent you from floating up to the spiritual plane. It's funny, but it says a lot about how we have been contaminated. We equate freedom with no restriction. But when you go to a doctor, what does he do? He gives you restrictions so you get well. The goal is to get well. But a foolish person resents. Doctor, what are you telling me? I can't eat this, I can't eat that. Like so many times when persons have bypass surgery because of heart problems. Nowadays, the doctors tell them, you got to change your diet. I have relatives who were told after their triple bypass operations, you got to stop eating meat. So what do you tell the doctor? I want my freedom. I want to do what I want. That is happiness. And the doctor's trying to tell you, take up these restrictions and you'll become healed. Your life will be better. So this is our reaction to being restricted by dharma. We feel like our shirt collar is too tight. I want to do what I want to do. Be free and creative. But think about the so-called freedom and creativity that the darkness of Kali Yuga offers you. Just uncontrolled senses, which make you miserable. But the promise of the so-called delight is so enticing because it's Maya. Even though you know the outcome is going to be boring and repetitive, still we fall for it. So in a real human society, you have dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Religious principles, economic development for the purpose of maintaining your spiritual life, taking care of your body, and then regulated sense gratification, and then finally you get sick of it all. And you want liberation. The fourth stage. But what is Krishna, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, emphasizing? Prema Pumarto Mahan. Fifth level, love of Krishna, beyond liberation. So this is why Haridas Thakur is stressing that the primary effect, the real effect of chanting Hare Krishna successfully is ecstatic love of Krishna. But this Gopal Chakravarti character, although he was young and learned and handsome, he couldn't tolerate this. You sentimentalist. Don't you understand the Vedas? Don't you understand yoga, jnana? As Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, Bahunam Jamanamante, Jnanavam Mam Prabhajate. After many births and deaths, the metaphysical speculator, the Jnani, finally figures out Krishna is the source of everything and wants to engage in Krishna's service after many births and deaths. But we are here because of the mercy of Krishna as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So there was a huge uproar in the assembly. How can someone speak to Haridas Thakur like that, trying to refute him? And in fact, it got worse. Gopal Chakravarti said, this is all nonsense what you're saying. If it's not true, here's my challenge. If it's not true that just a dim beginning of perfect chanting of Hare Krishna, if it's not true that it gives you liberation, I'll cut off your nose. Now, this sounds like a typical Kali Yuga barking, but in an assembly that is so distinguished spiritually and refined, to say such a thing is horrendous. So the audience was just shocked. Oh, how can he say like this? This is Haridas Thakur. He's threatening. If what you say is not true, I'll cut off your nose. These days, it sounds like ordinary barking that goes on between human beings and nations. But in the company of refined persons, this is quite abnormal. But Haridas Thakur was cool and calm. He said, if it's not true what I said, you don't have to cut off my nose. I'll cut off my own nose. Anyway, the whole assembly was in an uproar. And they ushered Gopal Chakravarti out. Get out of here, don't come back. The whole audience was upset. We have offended Haridas Thakur. Even though we didn't say such a thing, we were witness to it. So we're also guilty. So they all, once they threw out Gopal Chakravarti, you might say, well, they're pretty intolerant. But what would you do if someone came to your home and insulted the most dear person to you? You just, oh, it's all right. We have to be open to everyone and everything. No, you would figure out some way to get the person out of your house. So after they got rid of Gopal Chakravarti, ushering him out, they fell at Haridas Thakur's feet and begged forgiveness. We're party to this offense. We were witnesses. We heard it. We're in the same room when such a catastrophe has happened. Please forgive us. But Haridas Thakur very gently and calmly told them, don't be upset. This person, what do you expect? He's a dry, mental speculator with no spiritual realization. What do you expect from such a character? So Haridas Thakur was not offended in the least. Even though there was such a huge offense made, he didn't take it as an offense. What do you expect? He's a Jnani, metaphysical speculator, no realization, no experience beyond you're not the body, no knowledge beyond you're not the body, which is something. But when you're in the presence of someone like Haridas Thakur, simply knowing you're not the body is like kindergarten. Of course, you don't even find that level today generally. Little tiny bits, but generally no. So some days went by, 2 or 3 days, and this Gopal Chakravarti contracted leprosy, and his hands and feet fell off, as well as his nose. What's the point here? Haridas Thakur was forgiving, but Krishna was not forgiving. The devotee may be forgiving, but Krishna takes offenses to his devotees very seriously. So this history given in Anchalila chapter 2. Who has read Anchalila chapter 2? Raise your hands. Okay. It's important we think about it. I'm chanting Hare Krishna with the ultimate goal, and you should feel that goal pressing on you, to develop love of Krishna. And then you look at your chanting, how you're chanting, the quality of it, the attentiveness, and you think, oh, I can't believe I'm chanting the same mantra that Lord Chaitanya and his associates chanted. Where's my quality? Where's my attentiveness? So I have some notes from Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Comments you'll see embedded in Prabhupada's writing of the Bhaktivedanta purports. Comments about chanting Hare Krishna. And these comments are meant to inspire us. We can never hear it enough that we should consider our chanting to be our number one lifeline. Because, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, chanting maintains its preeminence in all phases of bhakti. From the first phase, Shraddha, having some initial interest, all the way up to praying, pure love of Krishna. Chanting Hare Krishna always is preeminent. Since that is the case, we might as well make peace with our chanting, so to speak, knowing I'm going to be doing this for quite some time. I'm not going anywhere away from the Hare Krishna mantra, and the Hare Krishna mantra is not going away from me. So I might as well make my peace with it and get into it with quality, which is a constant effort. Sometimes we get so busy, family affairs, working affairs, social affairs, that the emphasis on our chanting starts to slip, fade, sometimes disappear. How do we guard against that? By constantly hearing the glories of chanting Hare Krishna. So that's one reason why I recited this history of Haridas Thakur, the Namacharya, the Acharya, the preceptor of chanting Hare Krishna. So we're always going to be chanting Hare Krishna. That's what Lord Chaitanya means when he says, Kirtaniya Sada Hare. Always there'll be chanting of Hare Krishna. So we might as well make our peace with it. I'm going to be doing this without end. Sometimes devotees ask, how will we know what our original spiritual identity is? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that chanting Hare Krishna eventually reveals that to you. Consider your mind to be like a mirror with dust on it. If you've ever tried looking in a dusty mirror, you can't see your face clearly. You have to clean the mirror of your mind. That's the first step in chanting Hare Krishna. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. So in the beginning, when the dust starts to be cleaned, you can understand you're not the body and mind, you're spirit soul. That's kindergarten, but it's necessary for us to go to kindergarten. But the ultimate effect of when the mirror is free of dust is that you see your original spiritual identity. From chanting Hare Krishna that comes. Sometimes devotees, they say, I've been chanting Hare Krishna for so long, for 2 years, and I don't feel any profound change. Of course, if you look at their life, they're not doing a lot of atrocious things they did before. But they may say, I don't feel any deep transformation. That's because of not taking the chanting process seriously. This is explained by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Faulty chanting, meaning you're not taking it seriously in quantity or quality, is unable to bring about the optimal change of heart. It can happen, but after a long time. And generally what happens is that we feel frustrated. I'm chanting. I know it's haphazard. I know it's inattentive. I know it's not complete. I don't complete my rounds. I know, but still, I want something to happen. It can after a long time, but we'll become so frustrated. I don't feel anything. There's no major transformation. It's just like an empty religious ritual for me. Because you haven't properly approached the Hare Krishna mantra and sustained that proper approach. And therefore, you blame the Maha Mantra. Yeah, it works for others, doesn't work for me. I don't feel anything right now. Oh yeah, I feel a little buzz when I chant. But that's about it. It doesn't give me the impact that Maya does. So I was explaining to one budding devotee last week how you can divide the happiness quest in various age groups. When you're in your late teens and 20s, it's all about feeling good right now. Or at least next weekend. And as I was explaining, the Maha Mantra is one word, and which you have to experience as much as possible. Awesome. Whatever you do, it's got to be awesome. Awesome this, awesome that. You want to feel good. Have good experiences so you can recite the Kali Yuga mantra. Oh, that was awesome. Can you believe it? Awesome. Doesn't matter that the thrill lasts so momentarily. But then when you get in your 30s, deep into your 30s, things start to change. Instead of wanting to feel good as the number one priority, you want to be good. And what does it mean, being good? I think I'll commit myself to a relationship. At least for a year, we'll see how it goes. I want to commit myself to a career path, commit myself to a particular job, particular course of study. Commitment suddenly well, maybe not suddenly, but gradually becomes the predominant factor, replacing awesome. Now, yeah, I felt good and I've done all the things to feel good in my 20s. Now, let me try commitment. Of course, commitment these days is nothing like what commitment meant, let's say, 50 years ago. I think I'll be with the same person for a year. Deep, profound. I think I'll settle on a particular career. Even though such a huge percentage of college graduates, statistics show, don't get a job related to whatever they studied in college. And 25% or so of them have to take jobs that don't even require a college degree, even though they went to college and got in debt hugely by going to college. But anyway, as you go into your 30s, you want to be good. Being good means commitment. Whereas in your 20s, you're jumping around here and there, this relationship, that relationship, this traveling here, traveling there, this job, that job, these friends, those friends. So as we explained, the awesome focus changes to being good. And then what happens when you're old and broken down? If you have any ability to concentrate left, if you have any physical strength left, by the time you're in your 60s and 70s, you may start to think, what is the ultimate good? I've tried feeling good, I've tried doing good, but what is good? How many persons, though, in their 60s and 70s have the bandwidth, the headspace to pursue that course of investigation? This is why Prahlad Maharaj says in the 7th canto, Kumara Acharet Pragyo Dharman Bhagavatanya. From the very beginning of life, and he's speaking as a 5-year-old, that's the time to begin your journey of self-discovery. You'll find, especially in India, persons think that spiritual life, a concentration on spiritual life, should happen when you're in your 60s or 70s. Before that, it's the time for making money. And then when you're in old age, then you're spiritual. Then it's the time to be spiritual. At least there's some conception that there is a time to be spiritual. You have to give India, current contemporary India, credit in that way. There's still some semblance, some amount of the original Vedic culture there. But in the Wild West, people are still trying to figure out how to have sense gratification in their 70s. What I always try to explain at initiation ceremonies is that chanting Hare Krishna is a lifelong career. Through your 20s, through your teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, your realizations, if you've approached the Mahamantra properly, your realizations thicken and intensify. So the deep transformation in the heart we're looking for comes by dedicated chanting of Hare Krishna. Furthermore, that dedicated chanting of Hare Krishna protects us from the scorching flames of material existence. all those burning desires and circumstances that incinerate us, chanting Hare Krishna, when taken seriously, protects you from that. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya explains, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, number one, cleansing the mirror of the mind of all the dust that prevents you from seeing what you are. Whether beginning with the seeing that you're not the body and mind, all the way to the full development of seeing your original spiritual identity with Krishna. And then, Bhava Maha Davagni Nirvapanam. The blazing fire of material existence is extinguished. What brings about the blazing fire of material existence? Material desire. Because if you're established in just understanding, if you're simply understanding that you're not this body and mind, that so predominantly wipes out your material desires. It's an extraordinary beginning. So therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, proper chanting, a proper focus on chanting, protects a devotee from the scorching flames of material existence. Doesn't mean you get caught in a house that's on fire. It means you're not roasted, toasted, and incinerated by your own material desires anymore. So how is it that we guard against offensive chanting? Because it's the offenses that are spoiling our chanting. We don't take chanting seriously. We don't understand the full glories of chanting Hare Krishna. So how do we cut down those offenses? Get rid of them. The acharyas point out, by chanting with an anguished, contrite heart. Now this doesn't sound like high self-esteem, does it? Chanting with anguish and a contrite heart, that means realizing I'm an offender. It pains me to think about the quality of my chanting when I'm chanting the same mantra as Lord Chaitanya and his associates. That's anguish. But it's not psychologically debilitating. It's the kind of anguish and contriteness that leads to higher spiritual development. You're calling out to Krishna for Krishna's mercy, just like a child calls out for a mother. And if you don't feel that way, you don't have that anguish, you have the anguish that I don't have that anguish, and that'll get you in the door. This is what Lord Chaitanya means when he says chanting Hare Krishna in a humble state of mind. And Lord Chaitanya also says, Durdaiva Idrisa Mahajani Nanuraga. As the preeminent chanter of Hare Krishna, because Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, he says, I'm so unfortunate, although the downpour of Krishna's mercy is coming all the time, I'm so unfortunate. I'm not taking advantage of this downpour of nectar. I have no raga, no spontaneous attraction for chanting Hare Krishna. Yet, Krishna is so merciful that the nectarian downpour continues, even though I have no attraction for chanting Hare Krishna. The facility is there. That shows how merciful Krishna is. No raga, no spontaneous attraction. I'm doing it because I'm told I must. It's the doctor's order, so I squeeze out my rounds. Hey, Krishna. Hey, Krishna. When's this going to be over? It's going to take another hour and a half. Krishna, Krishna. Just like, you ever try to squeeze toothpaste out of a tube that's almost empty? You want to get every last drop out of the toothpaste tube. So, then a little bit of paste comes out. There must be some more there. So our chanting can be like that. An ordeal. That's what it means. No raga, no attraction for chanting Hare Krishna. No spontaneous attraction. Spontaneous attraction begins with your experiencing. I can't live without chanting. It's not simply that I've got to chant. I want to chant. Then you know your spiritual health is starting to return. And of course, this spontaneity applies to all aspects of devotional service. All the 9 processes of devotional service. Hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna, remembering Krishna, so on and so forth. It appeals to you, just like a magnet appeals to iron powder. The iron powder just flows toward the magnet. So Queen Kunti prays to Krishna, may my attraction always flow towards you, just like the Ganga always flows toward the ocean. And there's the famous prayer given in Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, by one of it's either Rupa or Sanatana Goswami, which is a great example for teaching us what is spontaneous attraction for chanting Hare Krishna. I know that young boys are attracted to young girls, and young girls are attracted to young boys. I'm simply praying to you, Krishna, that my mind will be attracted to you in the same spontaneous way. So let's think about that one. That's a natural attraction of the one body for another. Happens just instantly, almost automatically. Doesn't take much to light the fire. Now, if only we could be that attracted to Krishna, his name, form, qualities, and activities. That's anguish. That's contriteness. Look at me. I have no raga, no attraction for Krishna, no attraction for chanting his name. Now, sometimes devotees mistakenly say and think, I have no attraction, so I guess what's the point in my executing devotional practices? I've got no attachment, no attraction. That's like telling a doctor, why should I take your medicine? I don't feel like it. How many of you have ever had to take castor oil? Raise your hands. Nectarian taste, isn't it? But even though it tastes bad to you, you're taking it because you want to be healthy. Now, the difference is that chanting Hare Krishna, even in the beginning stages, is nectarian. But because of our offenses, we're oblivious. We don't see, we don't experience the fullness of the nectar of chanting Hare Krishna in the beginning phases sometimes. Or if we had, we forgot about it due to offensive chanting. So Lord Chaitanya, by his own example, even though he's the topmost chanter of Krishna's glories, he's Krishna himself in the role of his own devotee. He says, I'm so unfortunate, I can't chant Hare Krishna well enough. And Krishna is so merciful that the downpour of the mercy of the holy name is continuous. It's drenching everyone, even though they are not taking proper advantage. Still the downpour is coming. So how are we going to get past our stage of offensive chanting so that one day we'll see at least the first rays of light of pure chanting? By chanting Hare Krishna. That's the best solution to offenses in chanting Hare Krishna. Go on chanting with that state of consciousness of anguish and contriteness. Never become complacent and lackadaisical in your attitude about chanting. I stopped chanting last year. I didn't feel any different. That's a very unfortunate stage of life. That means you've been coated, effectively coated by the illusory energy. I don't feel anything. No lightning bolt hit me. So please remember what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. Offenses can be uprooted, and you can protect yourself against future offenses by chanting with an anguished heart full of contrition. And that anguished heart leads to eagerness for chanting. So it's not some kind of debilitating psychological injury you're inflicting upon yourself. By admitting, by acknowledging, I'm way off the mark, and wanting to do something about it, gradually eagerness to chant develops. So these are the acharyas explaining the necessary emotional states for chanting. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur continues saying that the Shastra, without a doubt, says that just by chanting, you can free yourself from offenses. And freeing yourself from offenses means the first rays of pure chanting can appear, in which your sinful reactions are extinguished. Even though that's not the main impact of chanting Hare Krishna. By chanting, 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 you remove the very desire to commit offenses. That's why it's always important. Don't stop chanting. You may think, oh, I'll never get beyond the offensive stage of chanting. Don't stop, because just by the chanting, by taking shelter of the chanting, it removes the propensity to commit offenses while chanting. It's just that without making a concentrated effort, it'll take a while. The mantra will take a while to make a tremendous impact. It will happen. But these days, we're so impatient. That's why it's important to consider chanting Hare Krishna as a lifelong career. Still, it's a fact. As Lord Chaitanya says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, how do you know who's the best person in a group? The one who just one time says Hare Krishna. That's the best among human beings. We don't understand the full impact of someone just chanting Hare Krishna casually, jokingly. The Hare Krishna. We don't understand the full impact. I think I've told you before, there was a drama in the Atlanta temple when Prabhupada was present. I was there. And it was the Leela from Chaitanya Charitamrita about the Chand Kazi. And the ritualistic Hindus had gone to the Muslim chief of the area complaining about Nimai Pandit and his group of devotees chanting and dancing. So these ritualistic Hindus, their concoction was that the holy names are a secret, they shouldn't be vibrated in public. So they were complaining to the Chand Kazi, the local Muslim chief, because at that time, the time of Lord Chaitanya, so much of Bengal and Orissa was under Muslim rule. So they were saying, how can this Nimai Pandit go on like he's doing? He's ruining the Hindu religion by chanting Hare Krishna. The potency will become reduced. And Prabhupada suddenly leaned into the microphone and said, potency has already increased. Just because they said Hare Krishna. I was thinking, what kind of realization what kind of level is Prabhupada on? It's just a drama. And they say, if they go on chanting Hare Krishna, the potency will be reduced. Potency's already increased. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that once we are free from offenses, our attraction and attachment for chanting will ever increase. When will that day be ours? That's a song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. When will that day be mine? When the full effects of chanting Hare Krishna will manifest in me. When will that day be mine? That's part of the state of anguish and contriteness when you adopt the stances of the acharyas. They're showing the way, even though they're eternally liberated personalities. They're showing you how to hanker, how to yearn, how to feel genuine anguish that's not debilitating but forward propelling. Just like Narottam Das Thakur sings, Manusha Janama Paya Radha Krishna Nabhajiya. I wasted my life. I did not develop a taste for Radha and Krishna. He's teaching you how to lament. And this kind of lamentation is not debilitating on your self-esteem. It's actually revealing what the real self is. The real self is eternally wanting to glorify Krishna. So please remember that it's not injurious to feel the anguish of lack of attachment for chanting Hare Krishna. That's a desirable state. But you know the anguish is genuine, it's bona fide when it propels you forward into more focused chanting, more dedicated chanting. Not that, oh, I feel anguish, therefore I stop chanting. What's the use? I'm so fallen, I'm so sinful. What's the use? That is unbona fide, ingenuine anguish. So spiritual anguish propels you forward, as demonstrated by the songs of the acharyas. I wasted my life. I did not take shelter of Radha and Krishna. The Hare Krishna mantra, Golokera Prema Dana Harinam Sankirtana. The Hare Krishna mantra is imported from the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. I didn't take advantage. I'm not taking advantage. So those kind of lamentations, that authorized Anguishness propels you forward. In other words, spiritual emotions even include anguish, and it's beneficial. It's not material anguish. That's another discussion we can have, maybe next week, about how pure love of Krishna in separation seems to be so painful, but the painful state, the apparent painful state, is actually the most treasured state in bhakti. Sometime next week we'll discuss that. All right, any questions? It's wonderful to talk about the glories of the holy name. Good self-reminder for myself. Yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. I had a question, not about the chanting, but at the very beginning you mentioned that while we're doing devotional service, we will eventually understand our nature, like Svarupa, I understand?
Like
Svarupa, is that Svarupa you are saying, right?
Yes, that's a fact. By chanting Hare Krishna, ultimately you'll see in the mirror of your purified mind your original spiritual identity.
So I was wondering, is Svarupa something that's already, like, as a, I don't know, it's like my soul, like soul exists, and so is my Svarupa exists, or is just being built while performing devotional service?
As Lord Chaitanya said, Jivera Swarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. We are the eternal servant of Krishna. That is always there. Your capacity as a servant of Krishna. Upon that basic kernel, there can be enhancement based on your association.
So with time, I will understand what type of servant I am, right?
If you consider servant meaning all the relationships possible with Krishna, yes. Not simply in time, but through dedicated, consistent spiritual practice. The dust on the mirror of your mind is removed, and not only can you see that you're not the body, that's just kindergarten, but if you continue, you'll see what is your original capacity with Krishna as his servant. And then, what is your association? Association means, what are you reading in Prabhupada's books? What are you reading in Krishna books, Chaitanya Charitamrita? What are you soaking up? That's association. As you advance in devotional service, certain Krishna Leelas attract you. That's association. But don't prematurely jump to that. Otherwise it can be like two 5-year-old kids saying, he likes you, she likes you. We call it puppy love. Or sometimes you hear devotees say, young devotees, young spiritually, and they say, I like Jagannath. No, I like Balaram. This is immature. Gradually, by associating with Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, especially if that association is in the circle of advanced devotees, dedicated devotees, you start getting a glimpse of what is your natural spiritual attraction. But you can be sure and confident that you are the eternal servant of Krishna. Dasya ras pervades all the other rasas. So that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that the gateway to all the relationships with Krishna is through servitude to Gauranga. By serving Lord Chaitanya in dasya, which is the only relationship you can have with Lord Chaitanya as a servant of Mahaprabhu, all the other relationships will open up when you go through Lord Chaitanya.
Thank you.
And in fact, that's the only way that's going to work in this age of Kali. You have to go through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by being his servant. Anything else? Yes.
Gurudev, thank you so much. This is a question from Nagaranitai Prabhu. He's on Zoom.
It's from whom?
Nagaranitai.
Yes.
So he asked, what will help us chant internally when we're engaged in so many daily activities where chanting out loud may not be possible?
What you're doing during the day, in terms of your occupation, has to have some relation to devotional service. Even if it's just, I'm earning money to support my spiritual existence and the spiritual existence of a family if I have one. And then I'm also helping others to come to bhakti. I'm using my financial resources in that way. I'm going to work, I've explained this so many times, I'm going to work to give, not to get. To give myself a spiritual lifestyle, give it to my family if I have one, and give it to as much of the world as my resources allow. That kind of thinking transforms your work experience, rather than, I'm going to work to get for me. How much more money do I need to get this, to get that for me? Instead, you're thinking, I'm going to work so I can have a proper accommodation for peaceful execution of my spiritual practices. Maybe some money left over to go to Vrindavan, go to Mayapur. Some money to help support bhakti outreach activities, farm projects, Gita Nagari. That mentality brings about a total transformation. Otherwise, going to work is a grind. I gotta go because I want to get this and I want to get that. That's going to work to get. So generally, the way the world's constructed, even Bhaktivinoda Thakur went to work. But what's the consciousness? When he came home from work and did evening arti in his home, he saw his whole house turn into Goloka Vrindavan. So he's showing you the peak potential of work and family life. You can just get a drop of that success. That drop is enough to drown your whole life in the pool of nectar. He writes in his songs, I've explained before, I will certainly earn a livelihood to support your family, Krishna. It's your family that I'm working to support. He's not just saying it's your family, he's acting in that way. He also says, I'll be like a dog outside the door, guarding your family, Krishna, guarding your family. Anything else? Way in the back. You have to speak loudly. Is that Philip way in the back?
Hare Krishna. So you mentioned associating with the books as we read, and I was wondering if you have any tips on, as we read, how to get association of Prabhupada's purports in a broad way, so we don't just take...
What do you mean in a broad way?
So he has many moods. sometimes he's very forgiving of devotees, sometimes he's heavy, sometimes he's very heavy as he preaches, and sometimes he's a little bit more strategic when he's dealing with people who might not be able to handle a heavy message. So how do we associate with the purport so we get a broad view of how to approach Krishna consciousness versus focusing on just what we're attracted to?
For me, I take every word as unlimited nectar. And each time you read, you'll see deeper and deeper. You'll see newer and newer lights. So just go on reading. As you know, Srila Prabhupada said that his purports are his emotional ecstasies. So that actually anyone can translate. But the purports, he said, those are my devotional ecstasies. Gradually you'll be able to see that. Does that answer your question? His advice for reading his books, which I always remember, because I used to have the service of filing his letters in Los Angeles. I had that service while I was with the BBT, filing all the letters to him and from him. So he, again and again, he would instruct, read my books, memorize my purports, and repeat them. And gradually your own style of delivery will develop. So we're all individuals in bhakti. He didn't expect everyone to say exactly what he says, the way he says it, because we all have different personalities. He said, first, read the purports, memorize them, cram them, and then gradually, and repeat them, and then gradually your own style of delivery, not your own style of knowledge, but your own style of delivery will develop. So that's what I did. We're all individuals, so therefore we have different personalities. But first you have to immerse yourself in the purports, repeat them, pack yourself up with them, and then by repeating them, gradually your own personality comes to the fore. Okay?
Thank you very much for the class, Guru Maharaj. I just wanted to ask, you mentioned about India, that at least there's some traces of that Vedic heritage that they, at least the last part of their life, they dedicate to spirituality, to spiritual growth.
They have, I didn't say they do it, they have the notion.
Okay, the notion. At least something. So when we read in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.13 that Tatshradadaya Munayo, that a student has to be very seriously inquisitive, equipped with knowledge and detachment to realize the absolute truth. How do we, in order to be seriously inquisitive, you have to be equipped with knowledge and detachment as you get equipped with knowledge. But if we have so many distractions that you have mentioned also, work, this, that, the other, there's practically no time to study Shastra deeply, because you engage in those activities, you get constantly distracted, in order to even inquire seriously, because you don't have time to think deeply. What would be the advice?
You have to sort out your life as best you can for simple living and devotional thinking. That should always be your goal, and Krishna helps you. I remember when your work life, you were doing quite well in terms of devotional activities. But that's because you arranged it that way. You sought to do it. If you just have a defeatist attitude, I guess just write me off Prabhu's until I'm 65. It's a constant effort. Every ashram requires a constant effort. What do you think the traveling life is like for a sannyasi? I've been here, I haven't been here a week, have I? I'm starting finally to settle down, calm down. So it requires an effort. Whatever ashram you're in, to keep the focus, not get overwhelmed by work, not become overwhelmed by traveling. How to keep the right balance takes quite some effort. So you might be thinking, or if you're a working person, oh, another day, back to work. And if you're a sannyasi, you could be thinking, oh, another day, another airport. Living out of a suitcase. I remember way back, maybe it was 2010 or something like that. I was staying in Hungary for 2 months, invited by His Holiness Shivaram Maharaj it was right after I was involved in an auto accident. And so I remember I got there to New Brajadam in Hungary. He showed me the room I would stay in, and I had my suitcases on right there. He said, "It's all right. You can unpack your suitcases." Oh, I can unpack my suitcases. That was a major thing. I couldn't remember when I had ever unpacked my suitcases. Even now, Krishna willing, I'll be here until August 3rd. I haven't unpacked my suitcases yet. Anything else? Let's see if someone else has them. You already asked a question. Yes.
Gurudev, thank you so much for reminding us about the glories of the holy names of Krishna. Lord Chaitanya says, Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shakti, that all the energies of the Lord are present in the holy names. I don't understand that at all.
The holy name is Krishna himself. Krishna means the energetic source and the energies. Krishna is never without his energies. Even in Vrindavan, Krishna has his energies, but he hides them. Sarva Shakti, all the energy is there because the energetic is there.
Even the energy of illusion, Maya, the Jiva Shakti.
Everything is there, all the energies. Didn't Krishna show that to Brahma? So, Brahma had the same doubt. Is this really Krishna with everything? Look, I just seen the lunch scene on the bank of the Yamuna. Such a familiarity going on between Krishna and the cowherd boys. Is that my worshipful Lord, Krishna, the possessor of all energies, Pralasha Shaktiya Vividaiva Shriyate? Can it be so? And then Krishna showed him. Yes. You get the honor of the last question.
Oh. So, as for endeavoring and chanting, how can we decrease our inclination to essentially this addiction to doing things that have short-term positive effects or short-term gratification but long-term detriment, and be more inclined to doing things that may be tough or like also nice, but have long-term benefits.
So it sounds like you're asking me how to get out of the awesome phase. Listen to those who've been through the awesome phase. Don't just flick them off that, oh, you old timers, you all say like that. Take what they say seriously. Wisdom of the elders, the spiritual elders. I often explain this example. Last I repeated it, I think I was in Hungary, and I was telling some devotees there, and they were astonished. There's a tribe in West Africa, and in a particular village, when they hear that there's some awesomeness going on between a young boy and young girl, they're in love. The whole village gathers in the village square, hundreds of them. They sit the couple in the center of their circle, and then what? All the people gathered, all the adults just laugh for 2 hours straight. And they don't say anything, they just laugh for 2 hours, and then they all disband. So why do they do that? It's their way of imparting wisdom that, look, for the survival of this village, we need more than just romantic buzzes that come and go. We need longevity, we need commitment. So they convey that message in such an appropriate way, and the couple gets the point. What do you think? Make a good drama, huh? There's no need to reinvent the wheel. It's a kind of arrogance. No one's been through what I'm going through. No one's been through it before. Or even if they have been through it before, it's not exactly like my situation. And I've got to be me. Fancy-free. That's the path to regret. That's another topic I speak on at outreach events. Regret and how to deal with it. There's something called foundational regret. Why didn't I do the necessary exercise so that my health would be better down the road? Or why didn't I study sufficiently so I would be better situated for my career? Those are called foundational regrets. So in spiritual life, why didn't I just stick to it, lay a proper foundation that I could stand upon and deal with life with knowledge, maturity, with sanity? Instead, I got knocked over by the thrills of the moment. What do you think? Life is serious business. When you read Srimad Bhagavatam, you're getting experience. In the second canto of Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami explains that materially, you're sufficiently experienced already after many lifetimes, but still we don't understand. We can't see in spite of the experience. So we think, well, experience is the best teacher. You've heard that one? But everyone forgets the second part of that mantra. Do you know it? Experience is the best teacher, for a fool will learn no other way. You didn't know there was another part to it. So what you've questioned about is very important. It's a question that everyone should be asking. So you've done well. Congratulations. Just by being able to ask such a question like that shows success. Just by being able to formulate such a question is a great breakthrough. We're proud of you. All right. I thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.